Well, hello, everyone. This is As the World Turns or Burns. This is Pat Lynch.
Kieran O'Keefe.
Brendan Connell.
And we're back from a new year, refreshed. We may, at the end of this, we're going, well, I'm rambling a bit, but let me talk about how we're going to do our shows this season. What we're going to do is we're going to have like real topic specific shows. So it's going to be one topic for one show, and then it'll be shorter. We're aiming for 20 minutes in length, and then it'll just give us a chance to really do a quick deep dive on a particular topic. Now, our first topic today is going to be Greenland, but would like to hold off just a little bit of time to talk about Brendan's trip to Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. He took that midnight train. And, so we're going to find out what that was all about. So with that, Greenland, I don't know, Kieran, you want to start off as far as thoughts?
I don't really know where to begin with it. It's all kind of crazy. Trump has been talking about this really going back a number of years now. It came up briefly during his first term where he'd apparently reached out to Denmark about buying it. The Danish prime minister was like, no, that's crazy. That's ridiculous. Yeah. We can't sell Greenland. We're not going to sell Greenland. And then he's really brought it back to the forefront this time around in a much more serious way. I was looking at some of the betting markets today. They have the chance that the U.S. acquires at least part of Greenland during Trump's term at 43% right now, which is pretty high. I don't know what I would put it at, but that seems really high.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is just kind of crazy. The motivations are a little hard to discern. I mean, there is some strategic value to it, of course, but it seems like maybe the mineral wealth is something that Trump wants more than anything else. Got a lot of rare earth metals, which the U.S. needs in the current economy, so that might be drawing Trump to Greenland. Maybe it's a legacy thing. It just wants to add a bunch of land to the map. It'd actually be bigger than Louisiana Purchase by a tiny little bit, so you could say he added more land than Jefferson. Right. There are a lot of potential reasons for why he might be doing this, but obviously it's really dangerous because one, the whole thing that we're going to buy from Denmark, I don't know if Denmark constitutionally can sell it because we're talking about Denmark, but it's like Greenland is an autonomous part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Mm-hmm. Constitutionally, I would guess, I'm not an expert on the Danish constitution. Mm-hmm. My guess is Denmark probably can't legally sell it to the U.S., even if it wanted to, because Greenland is not a colony. It's an autonomous part of the broader Danish kingdom, the Danish realm. But anyway, this is something that the Europeans seem like they're kind of putting their feet down about. That they're not gonna go along with this. I mean, they've sent a very small number of troops to Greenland. I think it was like a couple dozen or something. It was not very many. But I guess a symbolic.
What Trump
present.
said they added another dog sled.
Yeah, that's what he said. What's so weird about this issue, in some respects, though, is that, I mean, Europe's very opposed to it, not surprising, but what is the domestic constituency that wants Greenland? Like, who in the U.S. was clamoring for Greenland 2 years ago? It was non-existent. It's a fake issue.
A couple ice fishermen, maybe, some, who knows? Yeah.
This was not an issue. Nobody, if you ask someone, even a big MAGA person 2 years ago, what are your 10 most important issues? Greenland would not be on the list. It wouldn't be the first 100 issues on their list. But now if you look online, you can sort of see they're parroting the Trump talking points now on social media, where it's like, oh yeah, we need it for security. We're defending Denmark. They need to give it to us as a thank you present. Greenland can't defend itself. We need it. We actually have a claim to it going back to 100 years ago or whatever. Like all these just bizarre things that Trump and his sycophants are saying that they're just parroting now on social media. So it's kind of seeping into the MAGA base in a way that it wasn't there even a few months ago, not to this degree at least.
Oh, Brendan.
Yeah, I probably have like 2 points to make here on Greenland. So the first point is I think this is already kind of backfiring politically for Trump. Mm-hmm. It's already clear that even on the Republican side of the aisle in Congress, there are people that are upset about this because God, as crazy as like the Venezuela thing was, like Greenland makes Venezuela and like taking, capturing Maduro almost seem like normal politics. This is totally different because there's really no convincing narrative that you could use to say we need to go and take over Greenland.
Right.
with Venezuela, I don't find the narrative convincing, but at least there was something that resembled a narrative there, which involved sort of, it's in U.S. interest to get rid of this, this authoritarian that is, clearly an adversary of the United States, and then, the whole narcotics trade and et cetera, et cetera. So that was a little bit more potent for getting people in Congress and voters, and especially Trump's base, to realize like, maybe this is like in U.S. interest, and we're not, this isn't like a war we're getting into. It's just, a little surgical. We're taking out a leader and then we're putting something. But Greenland, how do you sell this to the American people, and how do you sell this to people in Congress that, are reluctant to get into conflict in general? But we're talking about conflict with NATO allies.
Right. And that's the key, because what's happening with Greenland is then, now we are going basically head on about challenging the whole NATO alliance. NATO partners don't go after each other. And this is, correct me, is this the first time this is, this has happened in the history of NATO, where one NATO partner's challenged another, and the whole, what he's doing, he's trying to do it either I'll do it nice, or I'll do the nice way or the hard way. Either way, it's kind of creating this little this fracture in the NATO alliance that, all you need is a little more pressure, and now, what do we have? Now we have it split up at the absolute worst time, because now think about Ukraine, where Ukraine stands. If you don't have a united NATO, I mean, this Russia, I'm certain, is gleeful over everything that's there, and for what, Greenland, we could put as many bases as we want. There's we want arrangements for mineral extraction. Fine, go at it. But in Trump's way of thinking, it's that you don't go and defend leases. You defend a country, and he's got this in his head that the only way to make this all work in terms of making it, using Greenland for defensive purposes, using Greenland for economic purposes, is that you have to have ownership. It's kind of that real estate mentality. But, this is a NATO partner, and it's just, it's just kind of that unraveling of everything that's been in place since World War II. And I don't know, is it, we've talked about this before, is this leading us to that spheres of influence, and so he wants to basically, he's got Venezuela, let's check off a couple more South American countries, and now just go and take, grab Greenland, and now we'll just have this nice little part of the world, Putin, oh God, I drew a blank on the China, Xi Jinping. Yeah, you guys take what you want, and we'll be happy to, with that way. I mean, is that kind of how you guys see it playing out?
Smacks of old-fashioned imperialism.
Yeah, doesn't it?
I mean, the whole thing to just like take over another country without the consent of the people there. To me, that sounds like 19th century imperialism, and in a way we haven't seen in quite some time. I mean, really, look at the polling. If the people of Greenland wanted to join the U.S., there would be an argument in favor of this. But the one poll I saw done on this said the support for U.S. annexation of Greenland among Greenlanders was 6%. So that's even if there's a huge polling error, obviously it's a very small percentage of the population. I mean, going back to the point about the Republicans, what I find interesting is I think if you spoke to almost any Republican privately, they would say this is crazy. But even publicly, like, there's certainly some who are criticizing Trump. There's Don Bacon, who's a congressman from Nebraska, the Omaha area. There's Tom Tillis. There's
both retiring.
both retiring. That's
Yeah.
a big part of the reason why they're doing it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do it otherwise, I don't think. Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, who are both kind of unique in a respect in the Senate. But overall, I don't feel like there are that many Republicans speaking out against it.
Right.
And the ones who are Tom Tillis is retiring, Don Bacon retiring, but Tom Tillis is retiring. And even still, if you look at how he talks about it, he phrases it like, I can't believe Trump's advisors are talking him into doing it. Are his advisors talking him into doing it, or is Trump himself talking everyone into doing it? And he also said that something to the effect of, even if Trump ordered an invasion of Greenland, that wouldn't be an impeachable offense, which is kind of crazy. Like, how is that not impeachable? If anything's impeachable, that sounds impeachable to me. So I don't know, but I thought Mark Carney's speech, which you referenced earlier, Pat, was pretty good. That might go down as a pretty famous speech one day. The Mark Carney speech, where he said it's not it's not an evolution, it's a rupture. It's not a change, it's a rupture. Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, but where, I think the European economy, the European world order is so tied up in into the United States, and they can't decouple immediately. But I think the process of decoupling is underway, and that's just going to continue over the next few years. Like, maybe you get a Democrat in there in 2029 who tries to roll it back a little bit the way that Biden did from Trump's first term. But the fact that we elected Trump twice and that his apparent successor, J.D. Vance, I'm not sure how different he would be from Trump in a lot of ways. I think Europeans are just going to say, the U.S. is not a reliable partner. We need to find our own way to do things. The same thing with Canada, Australia, New Zealand, maybe Japan, all the other wealthy democracies, wealthy and mostly Western democracies, are probably going to make a similar decision that they've got to find a way in a world that doesn't require being too bound up in the U.S. because one time maybe that's an aberration, but 2 times in a pretty robust MAGA movement, I think that's just too much for the Europeans to accept to accept the U.S. as a reliable partner going forward.
Oh, that well said. Anything else, Brendan?
I guess one last thing I could say is I think the Greenland stuff really epitomizes Trump's view of international law, and is just total disregard for it. When I teach like my world politics class, I also teach an international law organizations class. Part of what I have to do is try to tell students, here's why international law potentially matters. Because it is an interesting question, right? Because we don't have a world government. So there are some that believe, and I'm not even just talking about Trump, there's academics that believe that international law isn't worth the piece of paper that it's written on because there's no one to actually enforce this stuff other than states themselves. But I would always give the example. I used to give this example. It's well, if international law didn't matter, why doesn't the U.S. just invade the Bahamas? Because we could do it. We could do it like that, right? We're so powerful. We want the Bahamas to just take it over. And the answer is because there is international law against this in a variety of places. And even law aside, there's an international norm, at least since I would say post World War II, where you don't just take over countries. You don't use force except in self-defense. And generally leaders, even of major powers, would understand that, and it feels wrong to even just invade a country just when they're not doing anything.
Right.
I can't use that example anymore, because that's kind of what's happening. Is why doesn't the U.S. just invade Greenland? Well, maybe we will.
Yeah, or Canada, our 51st state, and the list goes on. Yeah.
So there's just a complete disregard for international law, international norms. In a way that, we've had presidents in the past ignore international law, on the margins, but Trump literally doesn't care. And he's actually doing things to actively try to tear this stuff down at times. Yeah. So I do think we are at a critical juncture where all this stuff that we set up post World War II, and we did set it up because we were one of the victors and kind of the major power exiting World War II. All this stuff is now crumbling down, and it's really because of we want it to come crumbling down, or at least the current administration does.
Yeah, Trump doesn't care about any promise, any treaty. He doesn't care. Yeah. You could tell him there's a treaty that the U.S. recognizes Greenland as Denmark's territory. He doesn't care. Right. He only cares about his own interests, or what he views as his own interests. Absolutely. And it's not good. And also, I think with a lot of the MAGA people, they really overestimate American power. The U.S. might be the most powerful military in the world, but the U.S. makes up about 5% of the world's population and around 25% of the world's GDP, and both those numbers are dropping.
Yeah.
So, like, the U.S. cannot go it alone. The U.S. alone is a weaker U.S., and that is America first. I think really is America last, or at least America further behind than it is right now. It's not a route I want to take, but. Like I was saying, Europeans, in Canada, other democracies, they can't break away from us immediately. There are too many ties with the U.S. that have been built up over the generations, but it will start, and over time, I think they'll begin to drift away, barring some political shift in the U.S. that really crushes the MAGA movement.
Yeah. All right. Dramatic. Just before we wrap up this episode, dramatic change of subject. Georgia. Tell us about your trip to Georgia.
Give you the quick recap. It was a fun trip. I was in Tbilisi the whole time. That's the capital. Not most, but 25% of the population lives in Tbilisi. So it's a city of about 1 million people. It is pretty big. And a very walkable city and a very safe city.
Right.
I honestly felt safer there than I feel walking around New York City or certainly walking around Little Rock or Memphis.
Yeah.
It felt very, very safe. So I did a lot of walking, most days. I mean, I did my fair share of touristy stuff, and I went sightseeing in museums and all that. But I also would just had a day where I'd wake up, go for a trail run, come back from the trail run. Things open up late in Tbilisi, so by the time it was 10 or 11 in the morning, I would go and I'd get lunch at a cafe. I'd eat really good Georgian cuisine, eat too much Georgian cuisine.
Yeah.
I'd be full. And then I would just go and walk across the city. And if I saw something that I liked, I would go and walk in. I took a lot of pictures of old Soviet architecture and Soviet mosaics, which I really like. Even just riding the metro. I got on a metro car that just felt very Soviet.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And I got in touch with someone who's from Arkansas. He was actually at the Clinton School a couple years back. Yeah. But I met him, we hit it off, and then he introduced me to some of his friends, so I got to meet some people from Georgia. And we just had a great time. Yeah. Drank a lot of wine. Wine's big there.
Is the wine any good?
The wine's really good. Yeah. I hope Georgians aren't listening when I say this. I don't know if it's the best wine in the world.
We have a very big audience in Georgia, I've heard.
It's going to grow now because, I spread the word about our podcast when I was there. But it's the birth of wine, as they claim at least. This is really where wine comes from, which I think is legit. But it's good. They have a special way of making it where it's fermented in these clay containers underground. So gives it a little bit different of a taste, I guess. But it was fun.
What was your go-to meals in Georgia?
So my favorite is they're kind of beef dumplings. They're called khinkali. And I had a lot of those, as well as khachapuri, which is basically a cheesy bread, and you get the acharuli hachapuri, which is you crack an egg in the middle and you kind of mix it around. Those are the stereotypical Georgian cuisine meals, but there was so much that I was learning too. I would talk to a bartender and I was basically tell me what I need to order to get good Georgian cuisine. What's your favorite? So I had different sorts of soups, something called harcho, something called chakapuli. What else did I have? Mitzvade, which is more chicken pork skewers. Yeah. I had what's it called? Pachali, which is mushed up different nuts and walnuts and then wrapped in eggplant. So it's a vegetarian dish. Yeah. So Georgia cuisine's it's very meat heavy, certain dishes, but you could also get vegetarian, vegan dishes. Some of it's more just cheese and bread. Yeah. It's a good variety of things, and it was all just knockout, very, very good.
So they didn't steer you to things like brain or tongue or testicles or any of that kind of
To my disappointment, they did not. I was really looking for the testicles when I was there, and they just looked at me like I had foreheads.
They can't. If you can't pronounce in Georgian, they're not going to serve it to you. But that's. Would you go back again?
I'm planning to go back over the summer.
Nice.
yeah, I tried to learn as much as the language as I could, and I feel like I've learned enough now where I felt it was like a little bit rewarding going there, and then like at least like having minimal conversations in purely Georgian. So I do want to I'm going to get a tutor online and then go back over the summer. And I also have some research I want to do there, so I can kind of make it a vacation / research trip. So
did you go to Stalin's house?
That's in Gori. I almost went, but then like a snowstorm came and it was just hard to go west in the country.
Wow. Yeah.
And that town is actually pretty close to the Russian occupied area nowadays too. I think it's like the major city that's close to South Ossetia, which is Russian occupied.
Yeah.
But there's like a museum apparently, and I've heard the museum is like a very biased one where they're talking about so.
Great man. So thank you for listening to As the World Turns or Burns. This is Pat Lynch,
Kieran O'Keefe,
Brendan Connell,
and
Producer
Jayson, which I didn't introduce in the beginning, but he's always in the back, lurking in the background, making magic, as always. All right. Well, thank you again, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
This podcast is sponsored in part by Lyon College and KILT Studios. Thank you to Jonah Winter for the intro and outro music.